At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 3 of VSiN PrimeTime alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. Did you have the winner over the weekend? Was it Min Louis?
No, I got in a little bit late on that over the weekend. And
Min Woo Lee, excuse me.
After the second round, I meant very disappointing. You had to bring that up. So I meant to bet Min Woo Lee. I was going to bet Min Woo Lee and Davis Thompson. I read Wes Reynolds, always your first stop. I read Wes Reynolds, John Haslebauer, who's going to be on the show with us tonight.
Yep.
Handicapped the tournament myself and looked at a couple other things. I thought, okay, I settled on Min Woo Lee and Davis Thompson, who are the two players I was going to bet. Well, got caught up. Going around town on the app, doing everything, making all the Sweet 16 bets and firing and all the work, and forgot to bet the golf. And Thursday morning, realized the golf tournament I was watching on TV, I forgot to bet. So Friday night, I had to put in Min Woo Lee, got in a little bit late on that. But props to Wes Reynolds for hitting another long shot.
Kelly Bidlin, too, yes.
Kelly Bidlin of VSiN also hit it, and John Haslebauer, I guess our guest tonight, is going to be on with us later this hour. I believe he's hit the winner in 3 consecutive tournaments.
Man.
And we've had him on the show here previously this season. He also, I believe, was on Aldrich Potgieter the week he should have won the tournament at about 80-1 and lost in the playoffs. So Haslebauer has been hot with his golf handicapping, and he's going to join us here in about 30 minutes.
Yep, at PGA Tout on Twitter is where you can find him. So we'll talk to John in a little bit. Bruce Marshall will jump on the program in the final hour. We'll get his thoughts on the Final Four, as well as the NIT semifinals and the Crown. So lots of college basketball if you are into that sort of thing. Baseball rolling along, of course. If you've been betting against the Brewers, that's been a profitable endeavor so far, as they are 0-4 to start the year and absolutely destroyed today by the Kansas City Royals 11-1 on their opening day. Still to come tonight, we've got Detroit at Seattle and Atlanta at the Dodgers. Also, Cleveland at San Diego and the Cubs up in Sacramento, Matt, to take on the Oakland A's. People continue to chime in and let us know where you can and can't bet the Crown. According to MFL on social media, the first state said, yes, you can bet the Crown there. Delaware said, we can bet all the games via Bet Rivers. So there you go.
Okay.
The people there in Delaware can bet on the Crown. Unfortunately, their Blue Hens are not in the college basketball Crown. It is worth noting, I got this question today from a gentleman in Milwaukee saying, I love the concept. However, I would like to see a team like Milwaukee in it, who had a really good year in the Horizon League. There are auto bids. That's why you're seeing, DePaul from the Big East. The Big East has auto bids, and a couple of teams said no. Indiana also said no. So there's auto bids for the conferences that have partnerships with Fox, right? Mm-hmm. That's the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Big East. So you're going to see those teams all involved. And then also the Boise State, who won earlier today, I think this to be true, they turned down the NIT to come to the Crown.
Leon Rice, Boise State coach, said we wanted more time, more practice time. The Crown tournament gives us that. And
money.
And also the opportunity to win more NIL funds. And Leon Rice loves coming to Vegas anyway. He usually wins when he's here.
Yeah.
Boise State usually beats UNLV, and Boise State wins today by 30. Right now we got a Big 10, Big 12 matchup with Nebraska and Arizona State, and suddenly Nebraska can't hit a shot. Cornhuskers were red hot, and it feels like they missed 10 shots in a row here. 21-19 Arizona State. I mean, let's be serious.
Total down to 146.
Got to be honest here for a minute, Tim. The reason these teams are in the crown is because they're not great.
Yes.
Right? And what we're seeing right now is a lack of competent offensive basketball on the part of Arizona State and Nebraska. So when you bet an over in a game like this, you can't be stunned that the teams are throwing up bricks and committing turnovers because that's how they got here.
Yeah. By far the best team in this field based off of just the possibility of making the NCAA tournament was Boise State, who was on the bubble, ultimately did not make it in. They are certainly the best team in this field from a bubble standpoint. So we're underway in this. Yeah, this is
Nebraska guard dribbles off his leg out of bounds.
If you're watching this, you're just saying, "Yep, this is why these teams are in this."
That's Fred Hoiberg's kid, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah, his little Hoiberg right there dribbled off his leg out of bounds.
Yeah, and we were liking the pace until they started missing every shot. This is the anti-Alabama Sweet 16 performance right now. I got a couple tweets, Matt, from our show last Thursday night when you and I were fixated on the BYU Alabama total and how that thing just continued to go up and up and up. And ultimately, there was really no point. I thought I had a good spot of hitting at the peak on the under. Not so much, as, of course, that thing went over almost every single number, landing 201 points. But Alabama, Matt, not in the Final Four for a second straight year as they were bounced over the weekend by the Duke Blue Devils, 85-65, as Matt is disgusted in what he is seeing from Nebraska's offensive prowess right now.
Just give it to Bryce Williams every time down the floor, please. He just hit another three. He's got 11 of Nebraska's 22 points. Most of the other guys on the floor just throw the ball away, throw up bricks, and dribble off their leg out of bounds. Can we just get it to Bryce Williams every time?
Matt is pleading with Fred Hoiberg. I mean, if you want, you can go drive in your car. I'll handle the show. No. You can just go, Fred.
He's not going to listen anyway. That's why
he's playing. Get the ball to Bryce Williams.
That's why he's playing his kid out there who dribbled the ball off his leg out of bounds. All right.
The teams that are pretty good still remaining here, Matt, would be Houston, Duke, Florida, and Alabama. And I wanted to pull up this stat that was mentioned over the weekend. I think Matt Norlander put it out there. The 10 best KenPom teams ever, the ratings date back to the 1996-1997 season, Matt. Per KenPom, Duke this year, number 2. Houston, number 6. Florida, number 8. Auburn, number 10. So since the 96-97 season, when KenPom came into existence with his analytical breakdown, we are seeing 4 of the best 10 teams in the history of KenPom in San Antonio this weekend. Duke's 2, Houston 6, Florida 8, and Auburn is 10. And how about this, Matt? When you look at Duke and Houston, we had questions about Duke, with who they had played. But the fact of the matter is they are now a 35-3 basketball team. They have lost 1 game since coming to Vegas and losing to Kansas. And how about the team that they play on Saturday night? They have lost 1 game since they came to Vegas on November 30th. So since December started, Houston and Duke have combined to lose 2 games, and they're playing each other on Saturday night in the late night one down in San Antonio.
Yeah, if you look at these teams in the KenPom ratings, Duke number 1 in offense, number 4 in defense. How about Houston? Number 1 in defense, number 10 in offense. Florida, number 2 in offense, number 10 in defense. And Auburn, number 3 in offensive rating, number 8 in defensive rating. All 4 teams in the Final Four within the top 10 in offensive and defensive rating. So they certainly fit that championship profile we've talked about all season, right? And KenPom, where you have to be a top 20 or top 25, essentially offense and defense to get there. So that's how you get 4 number 1 seeds. Duke number 1 overall in KenPom. And Duke, I would say, on KenPom, about 2.5 point difference between Blue Devils and Houston. And right now we're seeing 4.5,
66, yep.
4.5 on the betting line. Tim, what would it take for you? I saw in the VSiN email written by Bill 80 this morning, Brent Musburger chimed in. He likes the 2 favorites, Florida minus 2.5, Duke minus 4.5. I think a lot of people are going to like the favorites. How can you not in a tournament like this, the way things are going? How do you not like Duke? But I would think if you're trying to look for reasons to bet the underdog, if that number got to 5, you got to think in a slow game with low possessions. The Houston +5 might be where the betting value is. If you're a numbers guy, if you get into this, you would say the power rating says Duke -2.5 or 3. In a low possession, slow type of game, if you get Houston +5, you'd probably take that if you're a numbers handicapper.
I'm waiting, man.
Okay. You like the Houston side?
I do like Houston a little bit. Look, it's scary to go against Duke. It feels a little bit like what we saw last year, which was UConn. You could have put out any number, and they were going to cover it. They were just a runaway freight train. But today we saw a little bit of movement back towards Duke. You look at some of the betting splits. I know John Ewing over at BetMGM, our betting splits over at VSiN.com. It's overwhelming right now. And I totally understand why you're going to bet Duke. Look, I'm going to wait. Maybe we get a rogue 6. It's 5.5 right now at DraftKings. So I'm going to wait. And I think ultimately I will be on the Cougars here. And it's going to be a hold on to your butt situation with the Houston team, going up against Duke. But
Houston's got to muck it up
and
make it an ugly game if you're going to upset Duke, because Blue Devils can beat you pretty much any style you want to play.
They are so damn good, man. I mean, it is remarkable. And I don't know what you thought of John Shire, and we didn't really know what to expect from John Shire. I think he has done a tremendous job. It helps when you have 3 pros on your team, and Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, and Malawak there. But, some of the pieces that they have, Tyrese Proctor's been shooting out of his mind. Sion James has been really good. Look, this team is incredible, and there's no doubt about it. But by the way, speaking of those betting splits, you can get the VSiN betting splits from both Circa and DraftKings for as little as $9.99 if you are a VSiN Pro subscriber. And right now, Matt, if you look over at our VSiN.com betting splits courtesy of DraftKings, 75% of bets early on the Duke Blue Devils, 68% of bets on those Florida Gators. We'll talk more a little Final Four on the other side and continue to get you updated. The Texas women headed to the Final Four as they knock off TCU. It's VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is VSiN Primetime here on a Monday evening alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. We're live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. As I tell you what, Matt, it is, I didn't anticipate it, but, when you get into the slower part of the sports calendar, sometimes there's this unique stories that pop up. And I didn't think we'd talk this much about the college basketball tournament going on just down the street at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. But the reason we keep talking about it is that so many states do not have action. Another state, we have been told, courtesy of Mr. Rothstein, no action on the Crown in Tennessee. So there you go.
No Final Four for Tennessee either.
Nope. Zakai Ziegler and company bounce Rick Barnes. The number remains 1 for Tennessee as Houston took care of business. Tennessee's
tied for the most NCAA tournament wins with no Final Four appearances at 31. I think tied with Xavier. Is that right?
Sounds right.
I really thought the Vols were going to show up with a much better effort against Houston. 3, 4, 5 minutes into the game, you said it's over.
So let me ask you.
See right away, Rick Barnes did not have his Tennessee team ready to play, and Houston came out firing. So credit to Kelvin Sampson for that.
Let me ask you this, Matt, because you are not have not been a big believer in Houston
or Tennessee. I wasn't a big believer in Tennessee either, to be honest.
So
I didn't like him in that game.
I did not lay it with Tennessee, but I also did not hedge off as we were laughing at just the debacle that is this Nebraska-Arizona State game.
This is why these teams are in the college basketball crown. This is a clumsy basketball, and wow. It's the Arizona State up 31-26, Sun Devils on a 7-0 run.
But you asked the question to me, when would I get in on Houston? And I am going to get in on Houston. I'm just going to wait and see how this all plays out. Is there a number that you would get in, or are you
maybe a 5.
All in on Duke? Well, there's 5s right now. 5.5 is out of DraftKings.
Well, 5.5. Possibly. I'll look at Houston. Another travel for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Lost my focus there for a minute. I will say that I've got a lot riding on Duke to win this tournament.
Yep.
So I'm looking for maybe a little bit of a hedge along the way. I don't want to bet Houston money line. I'd like to be able to win both bets where Duke wins a close game. So if I bet Houston plus 5.5, got a little middle shot there where Duke still wins, but you cover with Houston. That might be something I look for in that game. But again, I got Duke I talked about this with Mitch Moss and Paul Howard before the season. I thought on paper Duke was incredibly talented and probably the best team in college basketball. And I'd fired on Duke 12-1 before the season. So it means a lot for me for the Blue Devils to win this. I do on that flip side, on the other half of the bracket, I've got Florida at 10-1. I was late to get in on the Gators, but I did do 10-1, so I'm hoping for a Duke-Florida championship game. But, looking at the college basketball screen right now, I would say – I don't know if I doubt we're ever going to see a 6 pop up in this game. At Circa, most spots were 5. Like you said, DraftKings 5.5. Maybe if you see a 6, it would happen on Saturday. So I'm probably going to wait this one out and try to anticipate, because if the books are going to get hit with Duke money all week, like you said, what's the percentage of bets on Duke right now? It's 70-some%.
Right now at VSiN.com, courtesy of DraftKings, 75% of bets, 83% of handle on the Duke Blue Devils so far.
You would think maybe there's a shot you see a 6 later in the week.
96% of handle right now at Circa is on Duke.
96%? Circa's not a square book.
No, it is not. Yeah. I mean, look, there's nothing square about Duke. Like, they're awesome. They've been covering. I was happy to lay it, and I don't like laying big numbers all that often, but I thought they would take care of business. John Ewing just tweeted this out 5 minutes ago. He's the PR person for BetMGM. And he said Duke has moved from 4.5 to 5.5 versus Houston. 84% of bets at BetMGM on the Blue Devils. So that game is the nightcap, Houston and Duke. And I think ultimately, as I mentioned, I will be in on the Houston Cougars. I'm going to wait and see how this one plays out. Early game, we saw it already once. By the way, how about this? Auburn has played every team in the Final Four. They played Houston, they played Duke, and of course they played Florida. Lost at home to Florida earlier this year.
Might have been the best game I saw the Gators play all season.
Was it 90-81?
Yeah, but it wasn't that close. At one point, Florida was up 20 on Auburn's home floor, and he said, wow. That's when I think a lot of people started to fire on Florida futures bets if you didn't have them at that point.
Yeah, Florida lost that ugly game on February 1st to Tennessee, held to 44 points on the road. And then after that, Matt, they've only lost one game. It was a road game at Georgia. They lost 88-83. They ran through the SEC tournament unscathed. But this tournament, they have certainly been tested against UConn and very tested against Texas Tech. Would you call their comeback lucky? Or would you say some of the schematic things that they went about? I give Todd Golden a ton of credit. As painful as it was for me to watch Texas Tech in my plus 550 to win the West region die, I give them credit. They fouled.
Oh, yeah, I like the strategy.
With 2 minutes to go.
Fouling early.
1-1, and guess what happened? Both 1-1s. Even Darian Williams, who's a tremendous free throw shooter, he missed. They also fouled JT Toppin, who was, you feel for the young man. He went 0 for 5 from the free throw line, missing that front end. And what did they do? They took advantage. They erased a 9-point deficit in a matter of less than a minute, man. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to correct you on there is I don't feel for the young man because these guys are getting paid a lot of money to play now.
That is true.
Free throws are not that hard to hit.
Hey,
you can't go 0 for 5 at the free throw line. I know you sucked as a free throw shooter when you were a player, right?
Was, yeah.
And that's why
that's
why you feel for the young man.
I do.
You can't shoot 0 for 5. And Toppin's the player of the year in the Big 12. 0 for 5 at the free throw line. Anytime you see a meltdown, two things are going to lead to it: missed free throws and turnovers against pressure. And that's basically what led to the Texas Tech meltdown against Florida. By the way, Nebraska Cornhuskers, just a complete clown show at the end of this first half. And they trail Arizona State 38-30. We're below the pace here. I thought we needed 70-plus points in the first half to get this over. Getting close to it. With
149.5 is where we're at.
5 total, 149.5. Yeah, it's below pace at 68 total points, 38-30. Cornhuskers are going to have to pick it up here. And maybe Fred Hoiberg not be playing his kids so much.
There was a game that it drove me just mad. USC went to Lincoln, and it was a night in which I remember we were sitting out at Mega Bar after the show concluded, and it was the night that Arkansas had that crazy cover against, was it Ole Miss? I want to say, where they got the rebound, they put the bucket in.
Yeah.
Our friend Bobby Brubeck was on that. It was just a trio of losses for the three of us. And the game that I was on, it was Nebraska, and they completely no-showed at home against USC, 78-73. USC was just in a brutal travel spot, I remember, and I'm like, all right, this is a good spot for Nebraska. They had lost a bunch. Nope, not the case. So I've been out of Nebraska here, the Fighting Freddie Hoibergs, for a while. But
you know what's interesting about this game, too? Each coach has his son on the floor. So Fred Hoiberg has Sam Hoiberg, a starting guard in the lineup. He's got 4 points. Box score doesn't make it look like he's playing that poorly. He's only got 1 turnover, 4 points. The fact that Arizona State's got 7 guys here is not really hurting him, because Nebraska has 0 bench points. And who's coming off the bench for Arizona State? Bobby Hurley, his kid, who's scoreless in the first half, and Arizona State's only got 2 bench points. These teams have combined to shoot 8 for 21 from 3, but the big number, 15 total turnovers. And Nebraska, 11 for 30, 37% from the field. 38-30, Arizona State over Nebraska. Sun Devils supposed to be shorthanded here, and they are, but they're still up 8 at halftime over Nebraska, which is a sad statement about the Cornhuskers.
Quick update from Memphis, as this was a game that you mentioned. Doug Kazarian was all over the Boston Celtics pre-flop, and they are now up 102-93 on the Memphis Grizzlies. This was a spot that I grabbed a little in-game on the Celtics, and now I'm kicking myself. Matt should have bet the money line. Should have taken the plus 130, plus 140, took the points with the Boston Celtics at 3.5 when they trailed by 10 in the second quarter. Once again, it goes to show, we try to do it as much as possible on the show. Obviously, JVT much more in tune with the NBA. At least now, we'll get more into it certainly as the playoffs roll around. But it is such an in-game betting opportunity out there in the NBA, and this game certainly was one. Hopefully that goes that way. Celtics right now 9.5-point favorites over the Memphis Grizzlies. Hey, folks, if you're betting on baseball, make sure you're getting the best odds with ProfitX. ProfitX is the first peer-to-peer sports exchange in the U.S. available in 40-plus states. That means you're betting against other fans, not the sports books, giving you, on average, 10 to 20% better odds. You can even request your own odds. Download the ProfitX app today and use this promo code, VSiN, V-S-I-N. All right, we'll update you on all things hoops, UConn, and USC just underway on the women's side.
Golf betting next.
Oh, that's right. Where are my manners? A man who's giving out winners left and right will join us next.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is VSiN PrimeTime. We continue to roll along here on a Monday evening alongside Matt Youmans. I'm Tim Murray. We'd like to keep you updated on all things going on and also preview games still to come. And before we get to our guest here on the Progressive Guest Line, in 40 minutes from now, Matt, the unbeaten Los Angeles Dodgers will take on the Atlanta Braves. Tyler Glasnow on the hill for the Dodgers.
Right here at Circa, Dodgers minus 207, total of 8. And I mentioned the strategy that Chris Massaro, pro bettor from San Diego, grew up in Boston. He's part of our Circa College Hoops Challenge. He said he plans to bet the Dodgers on the runs line every night, all season, 160 games. He missed the first 2 in Tokyo. 160 games on the runs line. He's got the Dodgers tonight, minus 1.5, minus 115. So he's got his money on Glasnow tonight. And he said, bad news for Tim Murray. I am going to do this in every game. So if you think he's going to quit, he's not a quitter, he says.
All right.
We'll see if he sticks to the plan.
I switched middle of talking it out. And I said, you know what? for my entertainment purposes, I hope he does it because he's going to entertain me on Twitter all
Chris
day.
might be just crazy enough to do that for 160 games. All right, let's go out to the progressive guest line. John Haslebauer. It's been red hot in golf. Joins us now. Follow him at PGA Tout. John, congrats. You hit another winner. Minwoo Lee at, I believe, 35-1. Is that 3 weeks in a row you've had the golf winner?
Oh, it could have been if Akshay could learn to lag putt a little bit as players. So we're going on 2 straight. We're going for 3 in a row now, and it's a sick game we play. Trying to pick an outright winner every week, and it's nice when you catch a little bit of fire every now and then.
Well, you and Wes Reynolds here at VSiN have been both on target with your golf futures plays throughout 2025, the last 3 months. How many winners have you hit so far in this? Let's see, 3 months on the PGA Tour. What do you got? 4 winners so far in futures or more? I don't want to sell you short.
No, I'm up to 4 through
Okay.
the first 3 months, which is fantastic. And I bet a very consistent risk reward every week, and I try to hit 6 for the year to break even. So when you hit 4 in the first 3 months, we're off to a good start.
All right, how many players do you typically bet on futures each week? Because I know you bet other things in terms of matchups, player position props and things like that, top 10, top 20s. How many, I think, was it fair to say you give out maybe 4 or 5 players in each tournament?
Yeah, it's usually more of your risk reward. So if I could bet one guy 7-1 one week, I could bet 10 guys 70-1 the next, right? So it really just is a matter of, do I like the favorite and where do I want to begin my card down the board? I've had a single bullet at the API with Rory. I've had 8 to 10 guys on the card when I start something at like 40-1 plus, which is kind of what I did last week when you had 2 single-digit guys, and if you're not betting Dottie or Rory, then you can take your pick at a bunch of guys 40-1 plus.
John Haslebauer, follow him at PGA Tout. I read your column at the Lines today, very thorough as usual on the Valero Texas Open final tune-up for the Masters. Tell us what you're looking at this week.
Yeah, it's a good event. A lot on the line for a lot of players, and nothing on the line for the other half. So it's an interesting dynamic. Usually the favorites coming in have their eyes set on Augusta. The best players in this field are already qualified for Augusta, so they're kind of looking ahead and trying to get their game in a good place. Obviously, everybody submitting themselves in this field wants to win. It's competition. These are competitors, so I don't think that they'll be too distracted. But there's also a big group of guys who are so hungry to win this week because it's their last opportunity to get into the Masters. So this is a week where you definitely have to be a little bit more accurate than last week. We saw Minwoo kind of sprayed around everywhere at Memorial Park. You still have to deal with the same sort of gusting winds. So I'm looking for somebody who can flight their ball down and play well in other windy or coastal environments. And distance is a plus, although we have seen some plotters get away with it. So a lot of different ways to get away with it this week, but overall looking for informed ball strikers, guys who don't have a severe miss, and then scrambling's going to always be important.
John Haslebauer joining us here, courtesy of our progressive guest line. Thomas lets us know on Twitter. He said, at PGA Tout and Wes Reynolds, killing it this year. They certainly are. Yep. Before we dive into who exactly you're targeting, are there some names that we should know, John, that have not qualified for the Masters? If you think about some sports where you bet on motivation, golf, I don't know how much you could bet on motivation, but are there some guys that you're targeting that have yet to qualify for the Masters that you think could be some good bets heading into the Valero this weekend?
Yeah, I would say, betting aside, I would love to see Jake Knapp get in because he's got such a good golf swing, and a young kid who just got his first win last year in his rookie season and just has that sort of shot shaper, length off the tee game that you want to see play at Augusta. So he was one of the best OWGR players not qualified, and he will need to win this week. So keeping an eye on him. Ben Griffin is number 51 world golf ranking, and the top 50 through last week made it. So unfortunately, he was the last man out. He was having some fun on Twitter this week, making poking jokes about that, but he will now need a win as well. Those are 2 good players. I expect them to play well, and And yeah, anybody who tees it up in the PGA Tour event is motivated to win, so I don't expect that to be any different this week.
All right, John Haslebauer with us again. Find his column at PGA Tout. I don't want to give away your plays this week, but tell us who you're targeting. And you mentioned some in your column. Who are you going to target for futures plays this week? And do you like Ludwig Oberg or not? He's a 12-1 favorite. Yeah,
worthy favorite. Didn't make it on my card, but you talk about a guy who went to Texas Tech, knows the Lubbock, gusting winds there. He was a guy I bet on a very short card last year at this event, and he played okay. I would expect him to be in the mix. Obviously, he's going to be looking ahead to Augusta as well. And as somebody who's going to be fading him this week on my betting card, I'm hoping that he's really, daydreaming about Augusta because he's a real threat here. And he's a threat on most courses. So he's a worthy favorite here. For me, I'm very drawn to Jordan Spieth this week. He's had a reputation over the years of always playing his best in Texas, and this is one of the events he's had the most consistency at, picking up one of his most recent wins here. I think 3 or 4 years ago. Get a decent discount on him in the mid-20s. I believe you can still find him, and had one of his best approach weeks we've seen from him in a long time at the Valspar last week. So that's another guy, you play Spieth on Spieth courses. He's going to be a very interesting bet next week, especially if he heats up here. And he tends to at this course. So Spieth is one guy, and then Daniel Berger is one. If you've read my column, you know how I feel about Daniel Berger this week. But another guy's having a bit of a renaissance season, coming back from injury. Just doing everything right now, gaining across the 4 categories, doesn't hit the ball out of play, is going to keep it in the fairway and separate with his irons, which is everything I'm looking for at this venue.
Let's see, Jordan Spieth 23-1 and Berger 30-1 here at Circa. Is that about the numbers you've got on those two players?
Yeah, I'm seeing about 25 for Spieth in enhanced markets, and then Berger, I believe on FanDuel I have access to here in New York. I got him at 35.
I looked through your column, a couple other players whose names popped up a lot in your statistical profiles. Corey Connors and Patrick Cantlay. Connors about 15-1, Cantlay about 20-1. Are you going to play those guys this week or pass?
Yeah, Connors is an interesting one. This is the only event he's won in his career. He's definitely a player who deserves to have more wins, and he's won twice at this event. So he loves it here. He's going to be, I would imagine, the most popular one-and-done selection if you're doing any one-and-done pools. But that's a very short number for me. And is he going to win the same event 3 times in his career? That's a little tough for me to get on board with. But definitely in the top 10 or top 20 market, he's interesting. And then Tommy Fleetwood is another guy who, great ball striker, plays well in windy conditions. Is he going to get over the hump and win this week? That's a very tight number for me to get on board with, but would definitely expect both of these guys, elite ball strikers, to play well this week.
He's been red hot. John Haslebauer joining us at PGA Tout. Best of luck, man. Appreciate the insight.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Good luck this week.
Min Woo Lee coming home for him. Wes Reynolds, Kelly Bidlin. So great winners there, and hopefully it continues for all of our golf analysts out there. It's been a good year for a lot of these golf handicappers.
It's great to see Wes Reynolds get back in the win column. Kelly Bidlin right there with him. So was John Haslebauer, our guest, right there. Okay, we're underway in the second half at MGM Grand Garden. Cornhuskers get a rebound and one opportunity here. Down 38-30 at halftime. Now it's 38-32 after the missed free throw. Need the scoring to pick up. We need the shot making to pick up. And
let's go.
The shorthanded Arizona State team up by 6 early in the second half.
Right now, 3.5 minutes to go. The Boston Celtics a 9-point lead over the Memphis Grizzlies. This was once upon a time a Memphis double-digit lead, and now Boston a 9-point lead, trying to knock off the Grizzlies without their head coach, Taylor Jenkins, for the second game. He's not their head coach anymore. He gone. Got some interesting news regarding the transfer portal, as well as some thoughts on that old torpedo bat. Is it cheating? It is. VSiN PrimeTime.
It is.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is VSiN PrimeTime here on this Monday evening, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Let's see, live look. Doug Kazarian sipping his Coca-Cola. I think he's pretty happy right now as the Boston Celtics have extended their lead to 14 points, 117 to 103. I know earlier today, Dougie K on his program there was giving out the Boston Celtics, as you like to call him, the betting bully. And he has found an angle that he enjoys, and why wouldn't you?
He loves to bet against the worst teams.
The Memphis Grizzlies are not very good against teams with winning records, and right now that would seem to be holding true with under 90 seconds to go and the Celtics leading 117-103.
The betting bully likes to pick on the worst teams in every league, likes to bet against bad teams. The Grizzlies not one of the worst teams in the NBA, but we talked about this trend, let's say, from Sean Grandy, the Celtics play-by-play guy. Mm-hmm. He's been on shows with us before. Grandy does a great job. He tweets out today, Celtics are trying to avoid a season sweep by the Grizzlies tonight in Memphis. And the Grizzlies have not beaten a team with a winning record or a winning team since February 2nd. So the last 8 weeks, Grizzlies are 11-4 against losing teams, 0-10 against winning teams, and it's about to be 0-11. Doug Kazarian all over this. Love this play tonight. Celtics -4, and I got a big lead here late in the game in Memphis.
Yep. So we were able to take a little in-game whack as well, and hopefully that seems like it will come home.
I think you timed it just right because the Celtics were down 10 when you took the Celtics plus 3.5. I don't think the deficit ever got bigger than 10. Right?
Yeah, they quickly took that lead and shortly thereafter. Quick update from the women's Elite Eight, as this is the final game before they go to the Final Four. We were talking about this line being just enormous in favor of UConn. Why? Juju Watkins obviously sidelined with a torn ACL. Unfortunate situation there. But USC had an early lead. I think it was 11-5, Matt. It is now 21-16. UConn with the lead, and we'll see if UConn, or USC that is, can hold on here for dear life and try to keep this thing within the number as that game continues on. Plenty of baseball to keep you updated on the college basketball crown. Quick update where we stand on this total. Creeping back up a little bit, Matt. 46-39 at the under 16 media timeout. 15:46 to go. Free throws for the Sun Devils, and it is 46-39 right now for Arizona State. I do want to pass across a little news regarding the transfer portal, which I know it's early, but these things are just popping up right now, so might as well pass it across. Someone that you and I have gotten to know from watching quite a bit, Didon Thomas from UNLV, has committed to LSU. So he is headed down to the Bayou. All that money that Jimmy Ott gives to the NIL collective down there.
That's a big check.
Yeah, Matt McMahon and company, after a forgettable season in Baton Rouge, they get one of the most impactful guards in the transfer portal. Didon Thomas goes from UNLV to LSU. And how about this pickup for a team, Matt, that will probably be preseason maybe number one? The Purdue Boilermakers, your Purdue Boilermakers, go out and get the big fella from South Dakota State, Oscar Clough. He is 6'11". He's a big boy. 17.5 points and 12 boards per game. Also coming back for now, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren. Matt Painter's going to have a squad next year, and they get a big piece in the portal, a 6'11" center from South Dakota State.
That was the number one target. Purdue's two-point defense, especially rim defense, was almost non-existent, especially the second half of the season. Clough is a huge pickup. I know that's the number one guy Painter wanted. Daniel Jacobson, 7'4" freshman center, broke a bone in his leg in the second game of the year. He was supposed to replace Zach Edey, so that was a big loss early in the season. Assuming everyone comes back, and I know Miles Colvin, a reserve guard, entered the transfer portal today. Purdue's going to be incredibly deep, big, talented. I'd say right now definitely a top 5 team. You know, I'm not sure what the futures board's going to look like when they open next week, but if you get Purdue at anything 25-1 or better, jump on it, because I think that number is going to get bet down. You know, it's always interesting. Tim, where these numbers might open and how on top of it some of the odds makers are, because there's a lot of movement in college basketball with the transfer portal. We don't know how these teams – do you know how Duke's going to look next season?
No idea.
We don't really know, but we know they're probably going to be good.
Yeah.
And loaded with talent. I think that you got to resist as an odds maker. You have to resist putting any of these contenders too high, right? You don't want to give away bargains to the bettors. I would say play it cautious, keep the numbers down. I hope they don't do that necessarily with some of these teams as a bettor, but as a bookmaker, that's what I would do, because you can go out in college basketball. You can go out and buy 2 or 3 players and make a tremendous difference in your team in the span of a week or two.
No doubt about it.
Look what St. John's is doing right now with Rick Pitino.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding this year, Matt. Louisville, disaster last year. Michigan, disaster last year.
Quick turnarounds.
Both those teams. I know Louisville lost in the first round, but still very strong year. They get in the NCAA tournament. Michigan had 8 wins a year ago. And they were in the Sweet 16. So it's gone final in Memphis, 117-103, as the Grizzlies again lose to a team with a winning record, as the Celtics cover the number as well, despite being down earlier in the game. I want to play this clip before we hit a break here, Matt. This was Bryson Stott of the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of talk over the weekend about the torpedo bat that the New York Yankees were using. And I was curious about it, and I stumbled upon this clip from Bryson Stott of the Phillies discussing the torpedo bat, if he's familiar with it, if he's using it. Here's Bryson Stott of the Philadelphia Phillies on the very infamous now torpedo bat.
A little bit, yeah. I texted Jared at Victus, and I was telling Todd earlier that it's not a bat that they've been around. It's not a new thing. It's been around, and it's not a thing you could just go and order. Marucci and Victus have a hit lab, they call it, and connect all these wires to you. You swing 1,000 bats, and they kind of tell you where you're hitting the ball mostly and things like that. So if you're a guy who uses the whole bat, if you get jammed and hit it on the end and hit the barrel, it's not for you. You're taking wood off the end of the bat and shrinking that part, and it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I think with the torpedo, you are more like you get jammed more than hit it off the end, and then it helps. Obviously, you're moving the barrel down a little bit, and but it's not one of those things you could just call and say, I want this torpedo, because it might not work for you. So,
well, that was a very interesting answer from Bryson Stott of the Philadelphia Phillies. By the way, a Las Vegas native, went to UNLV, and he was later asked, I believe, in that question, is it an unfair advantage? And he said no, he didn't feel like it was. Now, he's a hitter. He's not a pitcher, and pitchers might have a different I'm sure pitchers get a different opinion there, but pitchers, they think everything's a bit of an unfair advantage.
Pitchers are not allowed to use the substances on their hands
sticky
anymore.
Stuff.
And now the batters can step in there with torpedo bats. Seems a little bit unfair, but what the Yankees are doing is interesting to me, Tim, because baseball's been around for 100+ years. And you're telling me nobody's come up with this idea until now?
I know.
It's very interesting. The guy on the Yankees staff who did this, I was reading about him today. He's got an intriguing background, and he's basically in the Yankees analytics department. He worked with some of the players and came up with this idea for the bats. By the way, not every Yankees player is doing this. Aaron Judge is not using the torpedo bat, for one. But I think some of the most, or at least half of the lineup's using it.
By the way, breaking news from Chris Massaro. He's getting a lot of run today. He goes, no mad tweets tonight, Tim. As your buddy SVP would say, just winners. And he tweeted out a sizable ticket that he put in here at Circa on the Celtics, -170. So good winner from you, Mr. Massaro. And I'll hold you to no mad tweets, because you do have the Dodgers on the run line later tonight. So I'm sure we might get some mad tweets, potentially, from the 5-0 Dodgers there.
Yeah, no more mentions of him on tonight's show. I think he's reached the maximum number of mentions on
the
tonight's
Massaro
show.
Max.
Yep.
We've hit it for tonight. What we haven't hit is enough promotion for the Circa, the D, and Golden Gate, because if you're looking to come out to Vegas, no better place to stay down here, hang out with us on in downtown Vegas. You get 15% off your stay at the Circa D or Golden Gate. Head on over to circalasvegas.com and check out the promo code VSiN15, VSIN 15.
Next hour, let's run through some of the tiebreakers in the Circa College Hoops Challenge. Before the tournament, we all submitted our Final Four picks on our national champ. 2 of the 15 handicappers picked the number 1 seeds to go to the Final Four. Do you know who they are?
I know one of them. I know Hoops Peterson.
And one other.
Will it come in?
How's your Final Four look, Tim?
I got 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4, not bad. You were that close to having Texas Tech.
By the way, I'll tell the story that Chris Felica, the Bear, told me on Sunday regarding his enjoyment, I'll leave it at that, of the weekend's games. It's VSiN Primetime.